Welcome back to MMA Unhinged. And joining me today is number 10 ranked UFC welterweight Vicente Luque. Vicente, how are you? And how are you feeling as we approach your upcoming fight?
Hey, I'm doing good. Training is going really well, and I'm super excited. A big fight coming up. Couldn't be more excited.
Of course, man. And we're just about 2 months out. How long is a typical fight camp for you?
So usually I would consider like a fight camp 8 weeks, between 8 to 10 weeks. So for this fight, I have a little bit longer. I was able to really study a lot of tape on Ian and just really have a good plan of how I'm going to work, what I'm going to work in this training camp to get in the best shape possible. So it's always nice to have some longer time, not have to rush into the training camp.
Mm-hmm. And for yourself, how is fight camp so far? And I guess I got to ask, is there what do you do to kind of prepare yourself not to get injured? What is some strategies that you use?
Yeah, so that's a big thing. I'm always trying to do a lot of just physical therapy to prevent any kind of injury. So I'm always making sure I get my body stretched, get my body loosened up after hard sessions of training because that just gives me that extra recovery. Sometimes I also go into the cold plunge. So that's something that has helped me recover a lot, and we have that at the gym. So sometimes after a workout, I can jump in and just get that extra recovery, and that's really important. And it's more than all get some rest in between the sessions. Make sure I just relax a little bit at home and really not do much physical stuff so that I can rest for my next session.
Of course. And I know you've been training over at Kill Cliff. Is that where you've been primarily for this camp?
Yeah, yeah. So now it's gonna be almost maybe 8 months that I've moved here to Florida for good and training at Killcliff. Had my whole camp for my last fight here, and for this one, same thing. It's gonna be all done here at Killcliff.
And there's a lot of great guys over there that you train with. I know I'm going to bring up Ian Garry, but you've had some history with Ian Garry. But I also noted you've been training with Gregory over there. Is that someone that you've trained that you usually train with, or is that someone that you've been using as maybe someone to help you prepare for the size of Ian Garry?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while I do train with Gregory, but not as often as I'm doing now. And one of the reasons is exactly, the length and the height of Ian Gary. Gregory is a very tall guy, very lengthy, big arms, long arms, a lot of range. So it's just helping me, get used to that distance, get used to that kind of like longer reach and kind of getting me prepared to deal with that. So it's a guy that has been helping me a lot for sure.
Course. And bringing up a guy like Ian Garry, I'm going to talk about the fight. Let's just talk about you're exactly 2 months out. Looking at this matchup, I know there's a lot of mutual respect between the both of you. However, Ian Garry, he's riding a lot of confidence. He's 13-0. Do you expect kind of a fast pace from him, or do you feel like the respect factor is going to set in and it's going to be more like a chess match?
It's hard to predict. He is an aggressive fighter. He's a guy that, especially in his latest fights, he has shown a lot of confidence, a lot of, just really, he knows what he wants to do in there, and he goes out there and does it. So, part of me believes that, yeah, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to go in there, try to, put on a statement and try to shock everybody by getting a win over a veteran like me. But at the same time, I know that he's a smart fighter. He's not a fighter that is just gonna overlook an opponent like me. So I also think there will be a little bit of respect and just an approach where he wants to feel the fight before he goes in there and really starts to be aggressive. Maybe he's gonna try to feel it out a little bit, see what I'm gonna do. Especially because we've trained a lot together, so that's kind of different. We have that feel for each other. We know how we move, and that brings a different perspective to the fight because yeah, we do know each other, so probably me and him, we're gonna try to bring something different. So we want to feel what that's gonna be. So it's hard to predict. I'm just gonna try to keep my mind ready for both situations.
Well, what I'm hearing you say, and some conversations you've had with him, is you're just trying to say, the best man's going to win that night. Um, Now I know you've trained together, I'm sure you sparred together, but this is a fight, and you've been in there with everyone. You're 22-9. Do you feel like that as much as you got to know each other, that experience factor though from that's displayed from you will kind of come into play in this fight as well?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that the experience is a big factor for me in this fight. You know, at this point, I'm 31 years old. I think that I bring a perfect mix of I have experience. I am a veteran in the UFC. I've stepped in the octagon so many times, but at the same time, I'm at the prime of my physical condition. I'm getting better every day. I still am evolving on technique and on developing, new skills. So I feel like really, all this put together is what makes me so dangerous. Is what makes me such a threat for this fight. And definitely my experience is gonna count. I've been in there so many times. I know what maybe a short fight looks like, but I also know what a war, what a long and a grueling fight looks like. So I think that that's definitely a factor that I must take advantage of. But obviously, it's not something that is just I'm just gonna get there and that's gonna happen. I gotta use it. I gotta use it in my favor. Make sure that I make him feel that.
For sure, for sure. And like you said, you are only getting better. I watch every single one of your fights because you don't get performance of the night bonuses for nothing. Now that being said, talking about your opponent Ian Gary, I like I said, I know there's a lot of respect there. So instead of just asking what maybe you don't like about him, because I'm sure there's everything you like about him. What are the things that you really like about his fighting abilities, and what is it that he does that gets you excited about this matchup?
So what I really like, I mean, his striking ability is unbelievable. Since the beginning, I've always, since I met him in 2021, in New York. That was his first UFC fight, and I was there as I was gonna be a substitute if Kamaru or Kobe didn't fight. I was gonna jump in to fight, and that's when I met him. And since then, I really seen a lot of skills on his striking, the way that he puts, punches and kicks together, the distance control and all that. So I would put like that's the main thing he has going for him, a really high level in striking. And right after that is his will and his desire to learn and to improve. He's a guy that has traveled to Brazil. He trains in Europe. He trains here. He has been a long time training here with us. And in the US, he has trained in different places as well. So I think that he's always looking to develop his game, always looking to add new tools to his game. And that makes him, really dangerous. I think that that's something that he has going for him as well, and that I am making sure that I'm going to be aware of. I'm not going to underestimate him or just write him off as okay. I train with him. I know what his strong points, what his weak points are. Right now, he's training somewhere else. He's developing. He's trying to, become a new fighter. So I got to be ready for that new version as well.
And not to overlook your opponent, I know you're focused on this fight, but just looking ahead, looking at the rankings, and I will bring this up in a moment. But looking in the rankings, in the position that you're at, say you win this fight, are you hoping to look at a top five opponent, or where on the scale are you sitting?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the biggest focus is this fight. So I don't really know. I don't really know like what it would set me up as an opponent. What I do know is it's a perfect day to fight. Why? We're gonna have the title fight. We're gonna have Shavkat fighting Wonder Boy. So there's a lot of movement going on that night with the welterweight division. And for me to fight that night, for me to focus on getting a big win and being able to kind of be in the same time schedule than all the other welterweights that are fighting is definitely going to be positive. It's definitely going to be something that is going to set me up for a good fight right after that. So I don't know. I think it's a moment where the division is moving a lot. A lot of things are happening, and it's great for me to be in a big card fighting against a guy that is up and coming and defeated, and everybody has his eyes on. I think that's the kind of fight I need, and that's why I'm really excited for this fight, and because something where I see that I can definitely jump right in there back to the top five, maybe find a top three opponent and get into a big fight after that is going to move me closer to the title. But all of this will only happen after I beat Ian Garry. So I got to go out there ready and get that win.
Of course. And when they offered you this fight, was there any hesitation in taking it, given the fact that you guys trained together, and or was there other opponents that you were given as well?
No, it was the UFC was pretty straightforward with the fight, and I think just like the matchup is really interesting. Our styles. It's a fight that definitely is going to excite everybody. That's why I think the UFC looked at it as such a good fight and wanted it to get done. I didn't like it wasn't a right away, okay, let's do it. I do like the opponent. I have no problem fighting Ian Garry, but first I had to talk to the coaches because Henry, especially Henry, he has worked so long with Ian, he has worked with me for so long. It's a tough situation for him. It's a tough spot to be on. But at the end of the day, he left it up to us to decide if we wanted to fight. Like he would have our back in the sense that he's gonna okay, you guys fight. He's not gonna corner either me or him. He's gonna stay, at the sidelines and let us go out there and do our thing. And yeah, I think that after I kind of got the green light by Henry, then I was super excited, super pumped. That's when I sent a message out to Ian, letting him know that hey, it's business. Let's go out there and give us, the hardest fight possible because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We entertain. We bring, action to the fans that are at home watching. So let's go do that and try to be the best in the world.
And speaking on upon the division, before some of these fights were announced, obviously with Stephen Thompson, obviously with Kamaru Usman, I know he's jumping up to middleweight, but there is some matchups, obviously with the title fight that I will ask you about. Before there just wasn't a whole lot of movement, but now with all these fights announced, everything's starting to kick off. Were you kind of surprised that there just wasn't the fights weren't being made, considering what the welterweight division is one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, the welterweight is a division where there has been a lot of action, and at this point, I think it was like there wasn't movement. Like everybody didn't know what was going on, but there was a lot of movement backstage. So I was looking for a fight. Ian obviously was looking for the fight. All these guys, everybody. We also have like Gastelum fighting Sean Brady. So there are a lot of big fights that were kind of being talked about behind, and I think that sometimes that's what goes on, and usually great decisions come out of that. Because yeah, there wasn't much going on, and suddenly we got all these big fights that are coming on, and they're gonna happen soon, and then it's gonna be a big move in the welterweight division. So yeah, I think that there's no way that this division is ever gonna be boring, is ever gonna be not something happening and something going on because there are so many tough guys, so much good competition, and I think it's one of the best, if not the best division in the UFC.
100%. And talking about you here, you're 31. You're probably in your prime years here. Looking at 2024, what do you vision for 2024?
So I see it 2024 as a year where I can really, have that run for the title. That's been, my focus for a while. I had a setback in 2022, so I had to have this build up year, rebuild in 2023. But I think that, I had a great fight with RDA that set me up, to really put on a statement and say, hey, I'm not done. I'm not out of here. I'm still here, just starting and chasing that title. Now I have a big fight to close this year, and I think this is the fight that really is gonna set the tone for 2024 for me to get closer to that title and possibly, be fighting for the title in 2024.
And Vicente, I mean, you always come in great shape. You never miss weight. Talk about a little bit about what's your like go-to cheat meal after a fight, and do you have anything planned after this matchup?
I love eating. That's something. I also love cooking. So there are many cheap meals. Burgers are something that I love. Especially smash burgers, just regular smash double cheeseburger. That is one of my favorite burgers. Also pizza. I particularly like. I bake sourdough pizza. It's my favorite pizza. So it's my own pizza that I do it at home, and it's something that I really enjoy. After my last fight with RDA, I had Henry come here, and then I baked pizza for him, and then later I had other coaches, and Gregory was here too, eating some pizza. So it's something I really like, but I don't know for this fight. With a big plan, we have all my family. So my family from Brazil, my mom is coming, my parents-in-law are coming here for Christmas. So I think that's gonna be the big plan for after the fight. I get to fight right before the holidays, so I'm gonna be able to enjoy the holidays, eat all that good food, and just have a good time with the family.
And after training and having a big fight camp and having to manage your weight and keeping the diet clean, after every fight, and you want to get to eat what you want to eat, is there any physical effects that you get? Like, do you ever feel lethargic, or do you ever feel bad after, or like how does that affect you?
I mean, definitely, it all depends on how extreme I would go. Usually, like back in the days, I would just eat whatever, and really maybe 1 or 2 weeks of crazy, like just eating all that I couldn't eat during training camp. And that wasn't good in the sense that my weight would go up and I would retain a lot of water. So once I get back to training, that's just like extra weight that I'm carrying. My body feels it. I'm not moving like I'm used to, and it does. It does cost a lot of my performance. So what I do nowadays is like I try to have like more, let's say, balance in when I'm okay. I'm gonna eat the things I like, but I'm gonna eat like what I really enjoy, not just eat whatever. And I'll do it maybe 3, 4 times a week, but try to keep a good, day to day habits, and just make sure that I don't go too much over the weight of that I'm used to walking at, because especially with age and comes experience, and I realize that just makes it better when I come back to training. I'm in better shape. That means I'm able to fight sooner and able to stay active more.
Of course. And like lastly, I just wanted your thoughts on a couple fights, things that have been announced. Obviously, the elephant in the room here, fellow welterweight Kamaru Usman, he's stepping up to middleweight. 11 days notice. What a legend. Whether he's got the belt or not, he's always going to be a champ in everyone's eyes. Looking at him jumping up to fight Hamzat Chimaev, uh, what was your reaction when you heard about that, and what do you think about that matchup, given that he's got 11 days?
So I saw him spar the day that that fight got announced, and kind of it was a rumor already. So we knew that possibly that fight could go down. So he was already training and kind of focused and locked down in that possibility. And I thought he looked amazing. He looked really really good. So whenever Kamaru fights, I know it's gonna be a good fight. I know that his fight IQ, the way that he really fights in that octagon is different. But now he is really hungry, and I think that this guy like Hamza Chimaev is an opponent that will take the best out of Kamaru. Kamaru is really like is that kind of guy that nobody believes can be beat. That's what Kamaru loves to. He's gonna go out there and try to prove that, yeah, Chimaev is not that monster. I can go in there and beat this guy. So that's why I'm really excited for this fight, and I think that Kamaru is going to do super well and it's going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, no, and I believe so as well. And looking at Kamaru Usman, the position that he's in, now that he's lost his title, and then he lost when he went back for the title, and looking at the position he's in, whether my understanding is that if he wins against Hamzat, he gets shot at the middleweight title. So obviously, I would imagine he would stick at middleweight. But if he loses though, but he looks really good, and it looks like he holds up on 11 days notice against a freak like Hamzat Shemaev, do you feel like maybe he'll stay at middleweight?
Yeah, I think he might. He's a big guy. He's really strong. Maybe he'll struggle a little bit with the height, but that's something that all his life, I think he's used to fighting tall guys as well, and he's not short. At welterweight, he's pretty tall, but at middleweight, he's gonna be maybe at one of the shorter guys. But I think he can handle that really well. Especially he has long reach and he has amazing wrestling. So I think he has all the tools to really do really well in this division. We've seen guys like Kevin Gastelum, which is much shorter than Kamaru, way shorter, and still had a top five run and was a really good fighter. So yeah, I think Kamaru could definitely have a great run and possibly become a champion at the middleweight division.
And I can't imagine Hamzat is coming back down to welterweight after given everything that's happened. When he was in the welterweight division, was that ever a fight that you really wanted to have?
Yeah, I did want to have that fight. Right before I fought Belal, and that was right before also Gilbert got that fight. It was kind of like a fight that we had thought about. Maybe like I was gonna fight him, but at the end of and then I ended up getting scheduled to fight Belal, and then Gilbert fought. I don't know if Gilbert fought before or after me, but he fought Hamzat. But yeah, it was a fight that, especially when with all that hype and the way that he was, everybody was looking at him and this guy's devastating and everything. Everybody, wanted a piece of him to just go out there and test himself against a guy like that.
And second, you got like such an animal, Alexander Volkanovski going again. I mean, this is kind of a risky thing for him, considering this is his second shot at the lightweight title. Mind you, again, he's also on 10-day notice. What are your thoughts about that? And do you feel like maybe he can get it done with after the experience he's had with already fighting Islam?
I think it's a really interesting fight. I don't know what kind of shape Volkanovski was in. I don't know if he was like already training, kind of like maybe thinking that something like this could happen. If he was, and then I do believe like he can really put on a fight and maybe put Islam in danger. But if not, I don't know, because Islam has been training. He has been there for a long time in Abu Dhabi. He's just really adapted to the environment and everything. So I don't know. It's going to be more of how Volkanovski is coming into this fight. Obviously, he has felt what Islam has. He knows, how tough he is, maybe, and that gives him, kind of like that confidence that he already went 5 rounds and he already put Islam in some danger at some point of the fight. But if he's not in his top shape, I think it might be a tough night for him.
No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Um, Listen, Vicente, I don't want to take much more of your time. I know this is my first time chatting with you, so I just want to say it was nice to meet you, Vicente. I love to have you back on, where we love to have you back on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you again for taking the time, and just good luck on December 16th.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It's always awesome to have platforms like this, where you guys share my job and just show everybody, a little bit more of who I am. That's always important. For the fans, I always appreciate you guys. Big love. I always get a lot of love from everybody. So God bless everyone, and make sure you follow me on all the different platforms. And I have YouTube now as well, so go check that out. Just Vicente Luque, you'll find my YouTube. And thank you, appreciate it.
No problem, Vicente. You take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.